We're here at the Pre-Trib Conference in Dallas today, and we're here with Ruth Wardell. And this is my first introduction to her, and yours too, or maybe you've known her and known of her career. So we're going to speak to her today and kind of ask her about her career and some questions that come up. So, Miss Ruth, would you tell us a little bit about your ministry? You just told me a while ago you started back when?
In 1946, I went to New York City to start.
1946? Well, where were you born at?
I was born in Ontario, Canada.
Canada?
Yes, in 1923. So that's a long time ago.
Amen. Well, how did you ever get into ministry? How did you get saved?
My father was a preacher, a Baptist preacher.
A Baptist preacher?
Yes, and so when I was a young girl, I went forward at a meeting to confess my sins. I thought I had one. I disobeyed my mother.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, so that was a big sin to me at the time, and that all, I was very happy to get rid of that. And then when I was about 12, I went forward at a meeting to give my life to the Lord as a missionary, and then that was my goal. Then from then on to to train myself and do whatever God wanted me to do. And actually, my big goal in life was to do the will of God.
Amen. How did you know the Lord was calling you to the mission field?
Well, I went to a Bible school and graduated. And my thing was that real often young people got called someplace, and then a year later they were home and they weren't doing anything. So I was really wanting a call from God, very special call, that I would know what the will of God was. I was really so determined to do the will of God when I was young. I don't think I'm that determined now, somehow. But then the will of God, I thought, wouldn't it be terrible to get old and look back and say you never did what God wanted you to do? That was a very tragic that I could think of. That was so. Anyway, I wanted to do the will of God, and what would that be? I didn't know. Would I go to Africa? Would I go to China? Where would I go to be a missionary?
Yes.
And so I graduated from school, and it was after I graduated from school that I was just praying and wondering what God wanted me to do. And there was a school here in Texas for children's ministries, run by the Child Evangelism Fellowship. So I came here. I was going to come here for 6 months to do that, but I didn't have any money. So I prayed to God that if God would have me come, He would give me $500. Now, I'm a young girl riding a bicycle everywhere. I had no car, had no money or anything. There was a lot then. So this lady who was working with Jewish people at the time called me up and said, "The Lord told me to give you $500. Now that was very exciting for me because I was only, just only 21 years old at the time. So I went to collect the money from this lady, and when I got there, I was reading the Bible in her apartment, and I read it said in Matthew 10, "Don't go into the way of the Gentiles, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Amen. It was the month of December, and God opened that. He just said, "Ruth, this is what I want you to do." Well, I needed a confirmation for my call. I wanted to know the will of God. I wanted to be like I am today, still doing work among Jewish people. So I went around and I said, "Isabel, I think God's calling me to work among the Jews." And she said, she just made a big sign. And she said, well, God had already told her that. That was a wow. And she was a very godly lady, a little bit older than I was. And so she told me her story. She said God asked her to give me this money, but she didn't want to do it because she wanted all her money, which she didn't have very much. She was giving me most of her money to go to the Jewish people. And she said, then I come along, and God tells her to give me this money. But then God said to her, well, don't worry. Ruth's going to be one that's going to go. So she already knew that would be what God, but she didn't tell me until after I came to tell her. So there was a confirmation of the call. And it was just I don't know, I was young. You got to realize when you're young, you get
full
these
of energy.
Oh, well, when you get these things happening to you and God answers prayers and does all these things, you just go into orbit.
Amen.
As a young person. So I felt God was really calling me, and He had given me the call.
What did your family think about all this?
Well, my family were, my father was a pastor, and my mother, they didn't say too much. They weren't too sure, I guess, what I was doing. But I had the $500, so I didn't have to ask for any money. They saw me off in the train, and, I know they prayed for me every day. And
amen. Mm-hmm. That meant a whole lot, didn't it?
Yeah, it meant a whole lot.
Well, where did God send you to begin to start?
Well, to New York City to work with what was then called the American Board of Missions to the Jews. Today it's called Chosen People Ministries.
Amen.
So I went to New York, and I was to work among the children in New York City, and the teenagers. And so that's what I did for 27 years.
Amen. What a blessing.
And that's where I met Arnold Fruchtenbaum, who came to know the Lord there.
Oh, you met Dr. Arnold.
Yes.
He is a wonderful guy, isn't he?
Yes.
I just love him to death. And you met Dr. Fruchtenbaum there.
He was a boy. He was about 13 years old.
Oh, he wasn't doctor then. He's just a boy.
No,
then.
just a boy then, yes. And we all thought of him as Arnold, Arnold. And so he came to one of my classes, and there I had an Old Testament just with English and Hebrew. And he was a very learned person in the Scriptures by that time. Read his Bible through a couple of times already. So anyway, I just went through the Scriptures in his Bible from the birth, life, death, resurrection of Jesus. And his mind just opened up, and he became a believer. That was his second time of showing up. So,
Boy, God gave you two signs, didn't he?
Yeah,
He gave you the
did.
money and with Dr. Fruchtenbaum.
Yeah.
And look what he's done since.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
He's been a blessing to
He
so
says
many.
I'm the beginning of his no-end ministries.
Well, I don't doubt that because
Yes.
as a pastor, I know a lot of his books have blessed me. And
Yes.
So what are you doing now with yourself?
Well, right now I'm working in a Messianic congregation in Dallas, Texas, teaching the children's classes there. We have bar and bat mitzvah, Christian bar and bat mitzvah programs, and I'm teaching the children we've had a lot of wonderful times when the children, showed their dedication to the Lord in their bar mitzvahs. It's been good.
Boy, I'll tell you, I don't think there's a better ministry than working to the young people.
Oh, no, and I work also in a Chinese church helping out with the children there.
Do you really?
Actually, it's just Dr. Paul Tan's original church.
Really? Well, God is certainly using you. Amen.
Yeah,
He's going to use you right up till the rapture comes, I believe.
I hope so.
It's-
Maybe that could be today, too.
Oh, that would be wonderful, too. It's strange. We picked this up this morning. It was in front of my computer before I left. It says Jews for Jesus. What do you know about this organization?
Jews for Jesus is a great organization. I've known Moish Rosen for multitudes of years. And like I said, his daughter came to visit me last weekend, and they've had a lot of wonderful missionaries there. In fact, I worked for them for 4 summers,
Oh, really?
training children in a school while the adults went to have courses in Pasadena, California, in Fuller Seminary there. So I did the children's ministry for the children of all these parents. That was good. So I got to know a lot of them really well there, and they're a wonderful group of people.
Just really love the Lord. You can tell.
Yes,
You can
and
just
very
tell.
great on evangelism, and I think evangelism has to be done somewhere.
How's your heart got drawn into evangelism? I can tell you have an evangelistic heart. How did God draw you there?
Well, my father was a great evangelist type of person.
was.
When I was first saved, I was like about 9 years old. Sunday morning, I would get up real early in the mornings and go out giving out tracts in people's houses. My father was great for open-air meetings. I used to play this organ in the open-air meetings when I was a teenager and gave out a lot of tracts, ministered to the children who were there. So my father was evangelistic. Every Sunday night was an evangelistic service. He brought your unsaved friends. They accepted the Lord. So.
Wow. Oh,
It
for
was
those
from-
days again.
Yeah, it's my father's ministry, really, that helped me with that.
And your father had been in the ministry a long time?
Yeah, he was a minister, yes, many, many years. He died at 68, and he'd been in since he was 24 or 5, so he was, a long time.
Let me ask you a question. Today, in most churches, we don't talk a lot about Israel. Now, in my church, in our ministry here, we're definitely Christian Zionists. We love Israel. And I don't know why it is, but the first time you go there, you've never been here before, but you fall in love with it. What is it about Israel that just seems to draw people, Christians?
Well, Israel is the homeland for the Jewish people, and if you love the Jewish people, you're going to love their homeland.
Yes.
And be excited about what's going to happen there. And, of course, Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, so that makes a homeland pretty important.
Amen. It sure does. I wanted to ask you, and today now, as a pastor, I look around, I see everything that's happening and going on, and you've had a lot of experience, a lot of background. What do you think the churches should be reaching out to do today? And this is a tough time right now.
You mean for the Jewish people?
Yes.
Well, I think, first of all, the churches don't have too much understanding of how to witness to Jewish people, nor do they have much understanding of loving them. So I think, really, we should be out doing more Jewish evangelism seminars in churches where people gather and learn how to do these things. We used to do a lot of that in California. I spoke in many of these Jewish evangelism seminars there. And that helped a great deal. The people would learn, and they would bring the people to your meetings, and we could see them come to know the Lord. So I think churches need to have an awareness and an awakening, and you have to teach that.
Yes, it is awakening. It's like here with a prophecy, you know.
Yes.
It's awakening. It's just not taught anymore today.
No, I was listening today, and it's very exciting.
Oh,
Yes.
it is. It's very exciting. But
Yes.
people today, even pastors, they don't teach Revelation or Daniel or any of
No.
them. And what an exciting thing it is to know the Lord's coming and Israel's going to be restored.
Yeah, well, and it's just exciting to know that Jewish people can come to know faith in Jesus too, today.
Amen.
If you
Isn't
just
that-
preach the gospel.
Just preach the gospel.
And well, you have to have a special kind of love for Jewish people. I
You know,
think.
let me share something that happened to me many years ago, and before I ever knew I was going to be in any kind of ministry, and you told me about yours. I asked the Lord one time, I said, Lord, would you give me a verse just for me? And I thought, that's kind of strange, but would you give me a verse just for me? And guess what he gave me?
It's hard to say.
Romans 1:16.
Aha. To
And
the Jew
ever
first and also
since-
to the Greek.
Say it again.
To the Jew first and also to the Greek.
And it's strange because the Lord has put me with Dr. McCall's ministry,
Good
now here
ministry.
with you and witnessing to the Jews in the streets in Israel.
Wonderful.
So isn't that wonderful how God has put us all together? I thank God for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, amen. I'm thankful for your ministry and thank you for what you're doing. And are you going to be doing anything here at the conference? You're visiting and seeing friends? And
I'm mostly eating with my friends.
that's good too. That's good too, isn't
And
it?
enjoying the messages, of course.
The messages are really good. I have found out that people who really love the Lord are very sincere like you.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the love of God flow through you, and that's a blessing. It seems to come from the inside. You know, a beautiful lady is one where God is on the inside and
That's
comes
true.
right through, and that's who you are. I just wonder how many others besides Dr. Fruchtenbaum you've reached in your lifetime.
Well, lots of young people, you know, especially in New York City, then a bunch of them in California. And then in California, I worked a great deal with senior citizens. We would have maybe 30, 40, 45 older Jewish people in our meetings. And we had the old-fashioned way of teaching them. Their favorite song was "What a Friend We Have in Jesus."
Amen.
Yeah, it was good. It was
I
good.
like that.
Saw a lot of older people in California come to know Jesus in the center we had there. And it's just exciting to see Jewish people come to know the Lord.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
I mean, to come to a Jewish Messiah, what a wonderful thing
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
it is.
And that's our heart with this ministry too, is to reach out, and because we love Israel and love God's people, and they are God's people, and we're grafted in.
Oh,
Amen. We're
yes.
grafted in. You
Yes,
know?
we-
Like Dr. McCall said, it's not a matter of how a Jew gets saved, but how does a Gentile get
Yeah,
saved?
what
With the
do we
Jewish-
do when we accept the Lord, you know?
Well, amen. It's certainly been good to be here with you, and I just ask that God continues to bless your ministry.
Well, I'm going to be 84 this month, so I think He's blessed me so far, and He's certainly going to do. Not going to stop now.
No, it doesn't
No.
sound like it. It sounds like
No.
he's really just getting going. And
Yes.
when we leave here, I learned today, we're going to keep ministering.
Absolutely.
We're never
Absolutely.
going to quit ministering in the Lord's name.
As long as the Lord gives you strength, you should use it. for
Well, you've
Himself.
certainly encouraged me today.
Thank you
And,
very
I
much.
think that there's a lot of women out there who've done so much for the Lord, have not been recognized.
Yes, it's true.
And I
We just
think
keep plugging
that will
along.
come. Well, you do. And
Yes.
you get no recognition of it.
But
and you
Jesus
don't
gives
ask
us
for
all
it.
we need, yes. He
Yes,
does.
yes.
Just doing His will every day is recognition enough for me.
But behind the scenes,
Yes.
there's a lady who cares, who
Yes.
loves, who
Yeah.
prays, who works, and those are the kind of women that God uses for His glory. Well, I want to thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, it was a pleasure,
God
and
bless
thank you.
We're looking
Yes.
forward to seeing what you're going to do next, how God's going to work on you.
I'm going to heaven pretty soon, too. So
Amen. I hope we can go with you.
that's one of the next things I'm going to do.
Okay, God bless.